Hello, everybody. It's me. It's your boy. It's Connor. I'm here this Thursday. It's July 23rd. We're here to do a little devotional. I mention every time that the reason I'm here today on Thursday is because both Ashley and Pastor are in their leadership meeting within the church, because we want to tell you, as you probably know, we're still the church. We're still the Albany First Church of God, even if we aren't having Sundays at the building, which means we're still making decisions. We're still doing things. Part of those decisions is if we were to open up, what that would look like. So they're doing that. Also, a reason to point that out is please continue to pray for them. Pray for our leaders. There's no easy decisions right now, especially when we thought we had tough decisions just on finances. We are going through the weirdest time for religion in this era, in America, where we have the freedom of religion, we have the freedom to get together, and even as laws are being changed on the daily about coronavirus, how it affects churches is so different than how it is affecting everybody, because they aren't supposed to, and they're trying not to step on our feet as much, because churches kind of rose up against that. But still, church leaders are trying to be smart about letting people in, and so they are going through a literal divisive hell. And I know I just said the big H word, and I mean that because the enemy is going to use whatever he can to just bring divisiveness among them, despite what they are praying about, despite what they feel like God's telling them, and they're bringing that up. The enemy is going to use whatever division he can. So pray for our leaders who are in that meeting, who are trying to make the tough decisions. So, with that being said, if you guys read the little intro spec of it, I said remembering the basics. Last time I came on, I wanted to cover some fundamentals, and I wanted to cover the fruits of the Spirit, because I think it's easy as Christians in general, but especially in this time as Christians, to get caught up in the semantics of being a Christian, get up in the advanced weird fundamentals of what it looks like and if we do that, we forget the basics. We forget what our faith is grounded upon, what we are built upon. Like we talk about being built on a foundation. God is our foundation. He is the cornerstone. In that same sense, what I'm saying is sometimes it's easy to forget about that and just be worried about what we're building up here. And so I thought it was, and I felt like God was pushing me in a direction to say, let's get back to our core. And the first week that I didn't, I really thought we needed to remember the fruits of the Spirit, because we needed to remember what we were supposed to be acting like as Christians. We need to be remembering that the fruits of the Spirit is a step-by-step instruction of what a Christian should be made of, what we should be protruding, how we should be acting, loving, patience, kindness, all those things. That's what a Christian needs to be fundamentally protruding. If you look at a Christian and you don't see those things, there's a problem. That's basics. And I wanted to cover a new level of basics, and that's the 10 Commandments. It is in the Old Testament. It's in Exodus 20. There's tons of arguments already of if we need to obey the Old Commandment or the Old Testament because the New Testament, blah, 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 blah. I'm here to tell you the 10 Commandments don't go away. Yes, you can sum up the 10 Commandments because Jesus said there's a new commandment, love your neighbor and you love yourself and love God. But these are still important. And so I want to read them to you. I'm just going to start at Exodus 21. It starts in 3. So it says, and then God spoke these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the lands of slavery. You shall have no gods before me. I'll go ahead and stop. Instead of reading through this and then going through it again, I'm just going to go through it right now. You shall have no gods before me. First of all, that is little g, big M. No other little case g before big M, me. As in, God is saying he needs to be number one. He needs to be before church. He needs to be before pastor. He needs to be before your spouse. He needs to be before your friendships. He is God. And if you put him first, everything else will fall underneath it. I know for the most part, people who are watching this and listening to us, it's easiest for us to know that. But it's also good. In me, I've been in active ministry since I was 17, 18. It's good for some, what is that, 7, 8 years? It is still good for me to sit back and meditate on, I will have no other gods in front of you. I will have nothing that is more important in front of you. And so it doesn't matter how long you've been a Christian, it's good to meditate on that. Continue on, he says, you will not make for yourself an idol, or any likeness that is in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not have an idol. I think this is the number one issue that Christians have. If someone were to come up to me and say, what is the absolute number one thing that Christians are doing wrong? I would say, let me phrase this. When I say Christians, I do not just mean this church. Sometimes I talk about the church, and sometimes I talk about the church, and I don't always clarify, and I apologize for that. When I mean the church, I mean the church. Making an idol is easy. Making an idol happens when you don't even realize it. It's not always a conscious thing. An idol is anything that is more important to you than God. Anything that is more important to you than prayer. Anything that puts itself in a position more important than God. The media can be an idol. Watching the coronavirus death toll can become an idol. Video games can become an idol. Sports can become an idol. Going back to the way our life was and fantasizing about that to an unhealthy extent can become an idol. And I think it's so easy for Christians to turn church into an idol to the point where they do not worship God, they worship church. I think they can turn their pastor into an idol where they go to church not because of God, not because of their relationship with God, but because of the relationship with their pastor. If we can turn the worship team into an idol, we can turn the actual worship into an idol in and of itself. And this is an important to recognize and to try to fight this. Because it's easy to do when you're not even realizing you're doing it. You shall not worship them or serve them. Sorry, that was a continuation of that. For I, your Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, and on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. What he's explaining there, this is God. Remember what I said in 1, this is God speaking. This is God speaking. He is a jealous God. And I know as a society, we've turned jealousy into a very bad word because it can be. In and of itself, jealousy just means that you desire something. When he says he's a jealous God, it means he loves you so much that he wants you. And when he doesn't have you, when you fall into temptation, when you fall into evil, when you fall into your idol worship, it hurts him because of how much he wants you. That's what he means when he says he's a jealous God. And he will show loving kindness to the thousands who keep his commands. You shall not take the name of the Lord in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished for those who take his name in vain. I think this is an easy one that we forget. We've obviously created a very common cuss word, GD. I'm not going to say it. Even I swear to God, when you have no intention of swearing to God. You shouldn't swear to God. it's easy to use as basically what this means. What taking God's name in vain is making his name common, because his name is not common. His name, Jesus, is the name above all names, and that's his son. We're talking about God, big G God here. His name is not to be created commonly. His name is not to just be said, oh yeah, God. No, it's important. It has power. The name, the literal, just saying the word, has power behind it. And we need to remember that when we speak it, that is not to be just commonplace, but that every time it comes out of every time it utters out of our mouth, it contains the powers of heaven. Remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor, and you shall do your work. But on the seventh day you shall rest, and it is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you, your son, your daughter, your male, your female servant, your cattle, or your sojourner who stays with you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all the things in them, and then he rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day, and made it holy. Rest is important. And I don't just mean if you work 7 days in a row because your work schedule is messed up that you're going to go to hell or that God hates you. But what it's really meaning is our Sabbath is God. Our rest is God. And it is good to take a day out of your week. Specifically, I don't have to take a day to remember God, and I only am a Christian 1 out of 7 days. I'm a Christian 7 days out of the week, 24/7. Even with that, it's good for me to take a day, even though I read the Bible every day, I read my scriptures every day, I pray every day, it's still good for me to take a day to rest, to declutter everything that happened through the week, and meditate on Him, to rest in God. Because that's not just a physical rest, that's a spiritual rest. And remember, guys, some of you are like, I already know this. Like I mentioned, I've been in active ministry since I was 17. I've been a Christian about a year. I jumped into ministry right away. I know these things, and I know most of you do too. But sometimes you can know something, kind of like taking the Lord's name in vain. You can know something, and it just kind of becomes whatever. You just know it. It's there. It's knowledge. But these are the fundamentals. This is what our faith is built on. And so I don't want it to ever become common knowledge. It should always be important knowledge. It's always important, I feel like, and I feel like God's telling me this, to go back and remember what our foundation is built upon. Like I said, I wanted you guys last time to meditate on the fruits of the Spirit. This time, we're going over some basics. If you guys are frustrated because you're like, I want some meat, I'm sorry. That's not today, that's not this. This is fundamentals. Rest in God. Meditate on Him. Meditate on His rest. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord your God gives you. I think every single mom and dad love this one, and every kid hates this one. And I'm really torn because we live in a society right now where it's very popular to disrespect your parents. It's very popular to try to blame your parents, being bad parents, for being toxic parents, that they abused me, that they didn't treat me right, that they didn't give me the freedoms I deserved, that they didn't. Last time I read this, I read this in multiple translations, and never once have I read the translation where it says, honor your father and mother as long as they're perfect and do everything right. The only version I've read is honor your father and your mother. And I've gone into arguments with people over this, because have I been perfect to my parents, and have I broken this before? Of course. As a whole, I think even my parents would say that I strive to honor them. I strive to listen to them, even now, even though I'm 25, I still do everything I can to honor them, to obey them, to listen to them, because they're my parents. Anybody who's listening to this who has a parent, I don't care if you are 50 and they are 80. They're your parent until the day they die. Or the day you die, which would be even sadder. You need to honor them. It's important. Even if they make mistakes. You mean even when they ground me and I don't think I deserve to be grounded? Yes. You mean even though, I did something wrong and they disciplined me with spanking out of emotion and I don't think that's right? Yes. Even though I disagree with what they're saying? Yes. Honor them. And parents, I'm going to say this to you too. This is not an excuse to abuse your kids. This is not an excuse to be rude to your kids. This isn't about that. We could get into that later. That's a different area of scripture of how parents are supposed to treat kids and kids are supposed to be trained. This is one of the 10 commandments. This is one of the top 10 rules that God said in the Old Testament. This is them. These are the 10 right here. You shall not murder. Pretty simple. I don't think I have to go over that one. Luckily, I don't think we have any murderers in our church, so I don't have to go over that one. You shall not commit adultery. Again, we live in the day and the age where adultery is still frowned upon for the most part, but where sexual immorality is seen as commonplace. It's no longer a sacred thing. It's just a bodily function. And adultery kind of goes along with that. And what I mean by that is, whereas you could see adultery as cheating, it gets more into detail about what it truly is, but let's just stick with not being sexually faithful to your partner. There's, like I said, there's way more to it, but if we're going to break it down to the basic of that, I literally got into an argument of whether watching porn is cheating or not. That's the society we live in. And yes, there's so much more wrong with it, but let me just tell you, that's how commonplace this is. Our society has gotten to. Over the argument of watching porn, is it cheating? That's disgusting. And it's saddening. But that's what our society has come to. And so that's why it's important for us to go over these fundamentals. You shall not steal. That even means from your church. That means don't take the Bibles. Don't take our toilet paper. Don't take our hand sanitizer, please. If you need it, we'll find it for you, but don't steal it. Don't steal it. That's an easy one. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor. This one is commonly, I don't want to say misconstrued as lying, because lying is bad. Lying is definitely bad. However, men, if your wife asks you if a dress makes her look fat, the answer is always no, you look beautiful. It's fine, and I think God understands that one. What this means is specifically bear false witness, tell something false, tell a lie about your neighbor. Don't go spreading lies about people. Your neighbor, do you know who your neighbor is? No, it's not just the person to your right and your left and across from you. It's everybody. Everybody is your neighbor. Every single person. People outside of the state are your neighbor. People outside of the country are still your neighbor. Neighbor is used as commonly for the people of the world. Do not spread lies about the people of this world. This is the if I was given the list, like I said, I think idle is number 1. This is close to number 2. I think gossip and lies and rumors are worse in the church than in commonplace, which is really, that's not good. That's not good at all. That's an assumption. And if that means that you hear it, don't spread it. That means if you don't know for sure, don't think on it. Go approach the person if you think something's wrong with it, But don't spread false witness over them. And don't covet your neighbor's house, the wife, their servants, their ox, their donkeys. Don't covet what people have. You have what you have, and I have what I have. Now, if that means you're a little jealous of something that I just bought, and you're like, man, I'm so jealous. I get it. Everybody gets it. That's cool. If you buy a new car, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm so jealous. That's not bad. Coveting is to the point where you think negatively about the person because of what they have. Which I think, I'm trying not to get political with this, because this isn't political. This is religion. Not only this is religion, this is Christianity. This is relationship with our God. But I wonder if we're breaking this with how we view people who are richer or poorer than us. I wonder if we're breaking this with how we're trying to say that the rich need to give back to the poor. Is it because we think that, or is it because we're coveting that? And I don't know. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not accusing. Maybe reflect. Ask yourself. Ask God. Where's my heart? Am I asking the rich to give because I want it? Because I'm coveting the fact that they have it? I definitely think people should give. Hell, people, if you ask and I will give. And I usually don't ask for much or anything in return. But I have to ask. Am I coveting? Am I seeking what they want to the point where I'm looking negatively at them? Do I want that money, that power, that car, that gun because I like guns, that new cell phone that they had? Do I want those things that they have so much that I will find negativity in their life? Because that's not Christian. That's coveting. Like I said, I've already gone way too far. We're at 22 minutes, and I can see because I have a little counter. I think God is asking us to break it down and to get back to the basics. And so that's what I'm going to cover. Because it's easy for us to get into the semantics of what it is to be a Christian, especially right now during the pandemic, that we forget what we're really talking about. We find one or two scriptures that support our whatever more political argument, and we forget that it needs to be God, and then politics is like way down here. We need to remember that it's God. I'm trying to keep it in view of you guys. And our lifestyle, way somewhere around here. Sorry. We have to remember that it's God and our new to old car, house, whatever. And I think that's because we need to go back to the fundamentals. I think we've taken God, thrown him this way, and said Christianity. And everything needs to fall under it. That's not. Nope. God, Christianity. I know that's a not very popular belief right now. People like to think of it as one and the same. It's not. So I'm gonna end this. If you guys want prayer, like I've said, free to text me, text Ashley, text Pastor, call me, call Ashley, call Pastor, call any of the leaders. You know what? If God's saying you need some random person to pray for you, ask that random person to pray for you. And what I mean is, please don't just go into Walmart and ask somebody to pray for you. Social distance. What I'm saying is, if you're like, hey, I really want Josh Miles on the worship team to pray for me, call him up and tell him, and he'll pray for you. Hey, I really want Gina Konzelman to pray for me. God will tell you who to pray for you. And that might sound weird, and I don't know, except for the fact I feel like God just asked me to tell you guys this, because it's not very common. If you feel a tugging that you want a certain person to pray for you, please have that person pray for you. Don't make it creepy. If it's a something about your spouse, don't have a different person. No. God's not going to tell you to do that. But if you really feel, if you have a tug in your heart that you want a specific person to pray for you, text that person. Be honest with them. If that's me, that's me. If that's Gina, that's Gina. If that's Josh Miles, that's Josh Miles. If that's anybody, that's anybody. Let's keep praying for our leaders. I'm going to keep praying for you guys. You guys keep praying for me. Please pray for me. Actually, if I can ask, if this is allowed, please pray for me and Jordan. November, which is our wedding, is coming up really fast. And with COVID, it's kind of messing everything up. So please pray for us. Pray for Pastor. Pray for the rest of the leaders. And I will catch you guys later.